I've always dreamt of rebuilding a Minecraft village, but found myself intimidated by the challenge. I doubted if I had the proper skills to take it on. I thought I'd never be ready. But then, one day, a letter arrived. It was a plea from a mayor, asking me to restore his beloved home, a pumpkin village. He spoke of dried-up fields and crumbling buildings, a place robbed by time, but loved by its community. The letter called to me in a way I couldn't ignore. And so I packed up my things and embarked on a journey to that faraway realm. Unaware of the trials ahead of me, this is where our story begins. I hope you enjoy the tale of the deer, the scarecrow, and the forgotten hollow.
Excuse me, coming through. Ah, you must be Sniff. Thank you so much for responding to my letter. We are so grateful for your aid.
Oh, no, the honor is mine. You must be the mayor.
Yes, Mayor Gordon at your service. Welcome to the Hollow.
Thank you. It seems like there's a lot to do.
Perhaps it would be best to start with a tour. The town has been around for about a century. Despite the state of the fields, it is very fertile ground. Unfortunately, as I've aged, managing it has gotten quite difficult. I all but thought it a lost cause till you answered my letter.
I see. Well, I'm glad I can help. Speaking of, might I ask what kind of work you're looking for? Reconstruction, total demolition, a bit of both?
We really have no attachment to the current layout, so you are free to do as you wish. Although I suppose incorporating the old materials would keep it familiar.
I think that's a lovely idea.
There is, however, one structure I ask you do not touch.
Oh?
This is our soul lantern. It is the flame of community and the spirit of our people. It's why I can't seem to depart from this beautiful land. My mother used to say it could grant wishes. I hardly believed her, but then I wished for help, and here you are.
It's beautiful. Look, Mayor Gordon, I'm not a professional, but I'll do my best at everything, I swear.
With our village uninhabitable, my people have planned to travel. For the next 100 days, the Hollow is in your hands.
The pumpkin people waved goodbye, leaving me in utter solitude. But there wasn't much time to dwell on that. A monstrous task laid ahead of me, and I had only 100 days to complete it. My first instinct was to take a second look through the village. Most of the houses were barely homes, more so piles of dark oak and dacite. Strangely, none of these resources were from around the area. Maybe that's why Mayor Gordon offered me a few dark oak saplings. My plan for the next few days was as follows. Start a mine, upgrade my tools, survey the local area for supplies, and finally begin deconstructing the old houses. After breaking down shrubs for wood, I began to dig in the hill behind my carriage. It wasn't long before my stone pick broke, and I used the opportunity to gather some extra food from the village. As night fell on day 1, I opted to mine instead of sleep. I found a small cave where I mined coal, copper, iron, and discovered a patch of growing mushrooms. When I arrived back on the surface, it was already noon of day 2. While I smelted my iron, I made myself some food from some left-behind hay. Bread. I also found a red wolf, or 2. I'm not really sure, it seems like a package deal. I used my iron ingots to craft better tools alongside some buckets so I could create an infinite water source. I had food for now, but if I was going to sustain myself during this project, I'd probably need to work on the crop fields first. They were completely barren, aside from a few strange scarecrows. Some stranger than others. On my way back to the cart, I killed a skeleton, which dropped a backpack for me. Backpack! perfect for tomorrow's trip to survey the land. Everything was going really well, and I was feeling a lot better about the project, but I still worried about time. Honestly, a part of me wished that I had help, or at least someone to share the experience with. It felt strange to build a community space with no community behind me. But I also understood why the pumpkin people left. Anyways, that evening I drafted some ideas for the village houses before falling into a deep sleep. With my tools upgraded, it was time to scout for resources. The pumpkin village was surrounded by 3 biomes: the golden wilds, pumpkin fields, and an old-growth taiga. Just beyond that, I found a meadow with warm chestnut trees, and beyond that, a beach with all kinds of treasure. Night came before I could get home, so I stayed in an old beach house, which also had some nice loot. Dude, there's so much stuff in here. With no bed, I waited and waited till dawn, while monsters stared up at me with glowing eyes. With the arrival of the next day, my journey continued, and I found an arid highland with some nice orange stones that screamed pumpkin village materials. It took me nearly all day to get home as I trailed off to sample more and more resources. On my way back, I found a little doggie, and I've decided her name is Kettle. After putting my stuff away, I crashed into bed and fell asleep. On day 5, my resource hunt continued, and this time I went in the opposite direction. But on my way past the old crop fields, I noticed that scarecrow from before was missing. I don't know where it could have possibly gone. Maybe a thief took it, or a pillager? Either way, I should probably find it before Mayor Gordon returns. During my adventure, I came across a waystone, which I took with me. I found flowers, new wood types, crops, and even silk. But then, as I turned home, I realized something or someone was following me. The scarecrow? No. This thing moved. It stared at me with glowing eyes, and in a panic I ran away. I waited at a bush, wondering if it would follow suit and I could finally catch a real glimpse of it, but it never came. That was definitely the scarecrow, but I guess the better question was it always one? Its skeletal body might suggest it's undead, but undead are hostile. This thing would run from a deer. I thought about chasing it, but as the night crept up on me, I went home instead. As expected, the creature followed. I watched it carefully. Unlike the other monsters of the night, it hid. I killed a few zombies and I approached. It offered me a dandelion and spruce wood, and guilt immediately set in. This creature wasn't malevolent at all. You should come inside. Okay, chill out. Chill. So you like a pumpkin? Or a skeleton? Or bones? Is that your name? Gotcha. Bones. A cute and silly name. I wondered where they were from. They were the scarecrow, but also reminded me of the pumpkin villagers that were now gone. Maybe they were left behind. Either way, I decided I would keep them safe till Mayor Gordon returned, and hopefully he could offer me some answers. On day 6, I woke up ready to hit the mines, and so did Bones. They tried to help, keyword tried. Hey, Bones! That's not what I meant. Just use this staircase. It's like a template. You just like take these blocks that have been mined this way and then just mine them 2 more this way. No, 2 more. Not that. That's a little bit too much. Yeah. Once they got it, I left them behind to begin deconstructing the old houses. By nightfall, Bones returned with plenty of stone and a broken pickaxe. Oh, does your pick break? That evening, I showed them the art of crafting so they wouldn't have to rely on me to replenish their tools. So this is a crafting table. Clearly, they wanted to help, and while their origins were shrouded in mystery, I was really happy to have an additional hand. The next morning... Oh my god! I swear there was a third one, but I don't know where it went. I will see if I can find a saddle. With another person, we were burning through iron like crazy. Not only did I need iron, but I just needed better tools in general. Now it was my turn to hit the mines. I dug all the way to deep slate and then hit a thick layer of skulk. This wasn't like any skulk I'd seen before, painted across cave walls. This was a mine in and of itself, spanning farther than I could imagine. I came up on day 8 to drop off supplies and asked my bony friend if they'd like to come with me. Together, we spent the day trying to get through the massive skulk, but we just couldn't. We found a few diamonds, but also a lot of fossils. Between this and the lush land up above, it was no wonder the pumpkin people wanted to settle here. An area so rotted and decayed was actually just the turnover before new life. We returned to a rainy day 9 and began to set up for the project ahead. Despite the fact that Bones couldn't speak, they had no issue understanding me and were excellent at following instructions. Together, we began deconstructing the village, but it quickly became apparent we needed diamond tools, otherwise we'd burn through all our iron. The only issue was, 3 days of mining had gotten us a hefty 2 diamonds. It was just impossible to get through the skulk. Then I had an idea. I recalled that treasure trove of a beach. I found a diamond or 2 there before, so maybe we'd have more luck there? Bones? Tomorrow, would you like to go on a little adventure with me? Okay. On day 10, I headed out to the beach and Bones followed suit. Here, I learned my next strange fact about them. Bones couldn't swim. Time to make a boat. With that solved, we sailed around the beach, hitting one treasure chest after the next. We found a lot of stuff, and a few diamonds. But whether or not this method was more effective or faster than mining was kind of up for debate. By day 11, I was kind of itching to go home. I found one waystone abandoned on the beach and another in the nearby woods. I decided to keep the one at the beach and take the other home with me. At least now I had enough diamonds to craft a pickaxe, and with so many levels from the skulk, the next logical step was to make an enchanting table. Of course, it wasn't long before I noticed Bones was missing. I felt so silly, I'd taken my eyes off of them at the beach. Did they even know how to get home? Just as I was about to panic, I turned the corner and there they were. Oh, there you are. I spent day 12 kind of wandering, looking for more food. Since although Bones didn't have lungs to breathe, they apparently had a stomach to digest or something. The walk itself was beautiful though, and once again I found myself enjoying the landscape. I was really starting to build an appreciation for this place. And it only fueled my motivation to build the best possible town for Mayor Gordon and his people. That night I crafted a bunch of hoes and decided to try mining away at the skulk again. I was determined to get the perfect tools and get started on this village. I mined all night and finally came across an actual vein of diamonds. With so much joy, I returned to the surface. I visited the beach to grab more paper while Bones stayed home trying to break down the village. With the enchanting table at max level, I made myself the perfect pickaxe, alongside a hoe with vein mining in hopes of getting through the massive layer of skulk below. You know, I never thought that abundant levels and no diamonds would be my predicament. Usually it's the other way around, but here we are. I spent day 14 back in the mines. My enchanted hoe ate through the skulk, uncovering diamonds to be mined with my fortune pickaxe. With the levels I earned, I enchanted tools for Bones and myself. That should help you destroy things. And now finally, we could break down the old village. With that complete, it was time to revitalize those fields. As predicted, our lack of food was an issue, and this would solve that, providing us with a constant food supply while working on the village. Bones was happy to help, and we spent days 16 through 18 working on a farm. To separate the layers of land, I made walls of cobbled stone. I wanted it to have the appearance of something old but strong. In the evenings, I'd go to the mine in pursuit of more diamonds. The farm construction continued into days 19 through 22. I smoothed the land out, and Bones helped by planting seeds and lighting the area. I like to think that we found a sort of rhythm within our coexistence. I still had no clue what or who they were, but I did know they were absolutely friend-shaped. By day 23, Bones and I had mostly completed the farms, we just needed to plant the crops. I foraged most of the seeds in my previous supply runs, but I still lacked a few, such as lettuce. And so, on day 24, I ventured out to grab the remaining seeds. I trudged through the thick old-growth forest and found my way to fields of flowers. I came upon an orchard with an old farm and even found bamboo for scaffolding, but still, I couldn't find any lettuce. My curiosity led me farther and farther away from the village, and soon I was completely lost. I stumbled through the dark, dodging mobs while trying to find shelter. By now, I had two options: find my way back home or find a wild waystone and travel through it. I chose the latter and was soon rewarded as I came upon a sign. Hopefully, it would lead me to a way home, or at least a familiar landmark. It wasn't a terrible situation, at least. I discovered lots of flora, lush stacks, and all kinds of materials. I found flowers as tall as trees, and yes, I even found my lettuce. Eventually, I heard the sound of civilization and found a lovely village resting on the cliffside. To my luck, there was a waystone, and I was able to finally travel home. There, I planted my newly found seeds and searched around for Bones, but once again, they had disappeared, and admittedly, I was a little sad. Nonetheless, I carried on with my project. I traveled back to the arid highlands to collect lots of kaolin and shirt, both of which would be key materials for the village. I also made sure to grab some andesite and granite too. Back at home, I used Create to set up a fan and a bucket of lava to smelt without coal. I'm no Create expert, and I definitely don't have the time to min-max its usage for this project, but it's nice to create small machines to help process all my materials. For the first house, I drafted up these plans, which I'll say now, this world before the transformation and after will be available for early access download on my Patreon, alongside all of these little blueprints, so if you want to follow along, be sure to subscribe there. And subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't, that one is free. We just hit 600k subscribers, and I'm incredibly thankful. My editor and I put a lot of time, heart, and soul into these projects, and it really goes a long way. If by the end of this video you aren't convinced, I'd recommend checking out these videos too. Anyways, I started crafting all the materials needed for this building. I kept looking around, hoping Bones would appear, but alas, they were nowhere in sight. I started to really worry, for their safety first, but also because I was already so used to their company. I continued working on a rainy day 27, when I finally turned the corner and there they were. Bones! Feeling a lot better, I started on the first house, laying the foundation and building it up brick by brick. For the aesthetic of this village, I'm really going for an old stone cottage vibe. The pumpkin people seem to live few but far, so a sturdy shell felt best for their homes. I built into the night and into day 29. Bones kept stopping by, bringing me needed supplies and checking in. When I came back to the cart that evening, I noticed Bones had found a friend.
I see that you've been committing crimes.
A zombie villager named Dinnerbone, who was trapped in a floaty boat? I put my questions to the side and continued building the home. This cottage would be perfect for the local farmer, nearby to the crops and the barn I eventually planned to build. Finally, after 30 days, I had completed the first home. Hopefully, the other houses wouldn't take this long. Hopefully. On day 31, I decided to surprise Bones with a mini adventure. I crafted us a small airship in hopes of finding more villagers to trade with and unique materials to build with. Bones was happy to come along, and for the first time together, we took to the skies. We managed to find one village, but it had neither a waystone or the trader we were looking for. Not long after touching down, we returned to the clouds. We met a strange florist living in a stump in the woods. Then we traveled well into the night and returned before the dawn of the next day. On day 32, I went back to the farmhouse since I forgot the final layer of the roof. Oops. Now we can move on. I knew the next thing I wanted to build was the town hall. And I also knew I wanted it to be at the highest point of elevation. I spent most of the day landscaping the area and struggling to place the foundation. I found myself being too particular about where it sat on that little hill, so I took a small break and came back to it the next morning. Instead of jumping into construction, I spent the day landscaping. I dug up the old paths and did a little urban planning. Alongside the town hall, I laid the foundation for a regular house. Bones appeared now and then, but they seemed focused on trying to cure their new zombie villager friend. My work continued into the next day, along with smoothing the land. I placed the foundation for a small library, and later that evening, the foundation for a blacksmith. A few mobs kept coming at me, so Bones hovered nearby just in case. With 4 new buildings in the works, I started day 35 by constructing a few different chests. This way, Bones and I could organize the materials needed for each house. While I set everything up, Bones insisted on lighting the village with jack-o'-lanterns, and I found myself on a tangent as we carved pumpkins together. I went on to gather the supplies for the planned construction, but as I was harvesting wheat, Bones appeared and showed me something I'd never seen before. Oh my god! I was genuinely starting to wonder if Bones was magic. Together, we summoned many little hay friends before I returned to my resource hunt. When I planned the homes of the pumpkin people, I sketched them out to be mossy and lush. But moss was something I was struggling to find. Luckily, I remembered those lush stacks I spotted when I got lost on day 24. I figured I could just pop over and be back before dawn. Just as I was about to take off in the airship, Bones insisted on coming with me. So are you coming with me? And together we navigated the night sky. We landed on top of the tallest stack and used our tools to gather moss, clay, and cobble. By the new dawn, we were prepared to head home but found ourselves lingering for the sight. I flew Bones close to the water, watching their eyes dazzle at the reflections of glowberries. I could have stayed there for hours, but with a village to rebuild, there just wasn't time. We journeyed home, and with my newly acquired moss, I continued to landscape. Day 37 consisted of a short trip to the arid highlands and the continuation of gathering materials. At long last, on day 38, I began constructing the town hall. This process lasted several days since this building is a bit larger than the farmhouse. I designed it to operate as both a town hall and a home, with distinct spaces for living and working. For the roof, I chose bright red shingles that reminded me of Mayor Gordon's waistcoat. Construction came to a slow on day 41 as I placed the finishing touches some bright red awnings. The town hall looked fantastic, but also awkward. With a couple buildings done, it occurred to me how much landscaping would be needed to fill the space between. Right now, the area was just a blank canvas, waiting for the colors of the earth. With that in mind, I popped into the airship and took a trip over to the nearby meadow. I collected all kinds of flora to bring back to the village for both gardening and dyeing. When I arrived home, Bones surprised me with dark cherry trees, which I really wanted to use for the barn. Between their adventuring and a few wandering traders, our wood options had grown significantly, and I was delighted. I planted the saplings in the clearing around our carriage, adding to our strange backyard forest. The next day, I'd completely forgotten about landscaping, and instead I set out to gather more kaolin. This time, I went to a highland farther away, with all kinds of exposed ores like copper, iron, and coal. Although the first handful of days were rough, spent grinding to get the best tools for the job, I was extremely satisfied with this choice. The pumpkin people would return in 58 days, and yet I was confident that gathering materials wouldn't be an issue. The actual building though, well, let's not talk about it. Before heading home, I popped over to the orchard biome and retrieved the saplings of those tall apple trees. I figured they'd be pretty foliage for the farm area while also providing more food. I arrived home to a forest of cherry trees waiting to be harvested. With Bones hard at work crafting materials for the next build, it was time for me to think about roads. As much as I wanted to spend my days planting flowers, I realized this was a crucial next step, since the finer details of the landscape would revolve around these roads. At first, I tried out a palette of cobblestone, stone bricks, and moss. But something about it wasn't sitting right with me. I think it stood out too much, like it was too clean. It needed more natural coloring, dirt, and warmth. So I dug up all of my progress and tried mixing granite with dirt and dacite. To me, this was much better and a great way to incorporate all of the dacite from the old village, which I had a lot of, by the way. Now, with our palette established, let's try this again. Let's build some roads. At last, on the eve of day 48, I started on the library. It seemed like the best choice, considering Dinnerbone only had a pumpkin cube for shelter. Despite the fact that this building was the smallest, and therefore the fastest to build, I grew tense and worried. I wasn't sure where I should be right now, if being on my third build halfway through was good, or it meant I was extremely behind, or how much I even had to do at this point. I don't know. Just as I was about to worry myself into a classic midnight rut, Bones swooped in with a nice distraction.
Hi! What is that? Okay, wait, here, hold this. Okay, follow me. Oh my god!
Oh, you can release them.
I can't get it. Oh, I got it. Okay.
When I returned to my work, I found myself a bit more at ease. Yes, I was out of my element doing something I'd never done before, but at least I could remind myself I wasn't doing it alone. Construction finished the next day, and now we had a library for our, zombie librarian. While I'd been away at work, Bones had been trying to discover a cure for our friend. Unfortunately, this cure involved going to the Nether, which I wasn't necessarily opposed to, I just wasn't sure how it might go with Bones. But they seemed pretty enthusiastic about it. Together, we schemed to visit on day 50 and prepared for the journey in tow. I prepped by making myself a bow, and together we traveled into the depths of the Nether. We wandered from the portal, encountering a few ghast and other beasts, but the terrain was exceptionally difficult to navigate. Bones and I both agreed to try traveling with the airship, even if it meant flying directly over lava. It was hellish steering through molten waterfalls and thorny terrain, but better than bridging over it. We came upon dead end after dead end until finally I discovered a narrow hole, barely large enough to fit our ship. We descended through it, coming out the other end to find exactly what we were looking for. a nether fortress. Here, we could find the materials needed for Dinnerbone's cure. I landed atop a nearby tower, but quickly noticed Bones' hesitation. They stared at the soul sand below my feet, unwilling to go further until I removed it. I wanted to ask them about it, but it just didn't seem like the right time. We proceeded through the fortress, fighting wither skeletons and blazes.
Okay, just remember to keep your health in check if you have health.
Bones and I collected our fair share of blaze rods, but we stayed in hopes of finding more worthwhile loot. Unfortunately, that never really happened. We left the fort, continuing on foot for another day to look for any strange resources. By luck, I happened upon a wild waystone, which I took with me. I placed it in the basalt deltas, not far from the fortress, and we used it to travel home. Our nether expedition had taken us a few days, but now Bones could cure our librarian and we could get mending on our tools.
What the heck?
That very evening, Dinnerbone was no longer a zombie.
He's unemployed now, though.
Bones moved them to their new library, and I continued my task of rebuilding the village. With the construction of the roads complete, it was time to give them a bit of functional decor, and by that I mean street lamps. I love to design street lamps. I think they're an underrated way to bring style to a village. Similar to the old street lamps, I wanted to use jack-o'-lanterns as a light source, but I also wanted these to be a bit taller and brighter. After playing around with it for a day, I finally came up with a design, featuring a jack-o'-lantern in the center, surrounded by 2 orange paper lanterns that reminded me of small pumpkins. I started constructing them all over town in stages. First, the bases, then the poles, and finally the lanterns. Except I didn't have enough paper to complete them all, so I did what I could for now and spent the evening baking some bread. On day 56, Bones returned home from an expedition I didn't realize they took. They retrieved a variety of jungle items for our project. I guess my request for vines and brown dye was a bit more taxing than I realized, but they were happy to see me and the work I had done.
Do you think this looks like your head? I feel like it's a pretty close comparison.
I couldn't tell you why, but instead of working on any of the buildings, I spent that evening into the next day landscaping. I sectioned out a pumpkin patch between the paths and incorporated the melons that Bones brought back from the jungle. I think I was just anxious about messing up the project and needed something a bit easy to reground myself. Later, with the help of Bones, I began the process of adding mending to each of my tools. It involved a quick trip to the mines, but now I felt much better about eating through their durability. Actually, I think I just felt better in general. At last, I gathered the final materials for our next build, the barn. I love building barns, and the second I saw this field, I knew I wanted to make one here. This barn would house the larger farm animals, alongside the 2 skeleton horses I intended to leave behind. First, I began with the footprint of the build, trying to get a good sense of placement. Then I built up the walls and the windows and... Just after a few days of building, I realized I was going to need some help. On the morning of day 60, Bones joined me in a combined effort to complete the barn. With their help, the process went much faster, and in the blink of an eye, we had mostly completed the exterior. The next day, Bones returned to collecting materials, and I wandered out to gather flowers, for both the barn and the general landscape. Unsatisfied with my findings in this area, I waystoned to the village on the coast and roamed from there. I traversed open fields and came upon many lovely biomes. Some were as dazzling and magical as the night sky, and others were strangely terrifying. I grabbed every flower I saw, but never stopped moving forward. I walked well into the night until I spotted lights in the distance. It was another village, surrounded by colorful fields of amaranth and butterflies. This place was just breathtaking, and really all I could do was stare. A single thought crossed my empty mind. Would Bones like it here? I wouldn't know till I asked. I quickly ran around in search of a village waystone, a way I could bring them here in the future. I spotted one in the distance and brought it to the center of the village. I needed to get home and back to work for now, but I was also delighted to know that one day I could return. The day was still fresh when I arrived at the pumpkin village, so I sprinted to the barn to place my new flowers. I put the finishing touches on the roof, and now it was time for the interior. You might have noticed up till this point I've been avoiding interiors, and that's because, well, at least for the homes, I wanted to wait till the pumpkin people returned to let them move in at their own pace. The barn was the exception to this, since it didn't belong to anyone in particular, and I wanted to start housing the animals now. I dug up the floor, replacing it and texturing it to my liking. I sectioned out 2 pens and 2 stalls. The day was gloomy with a drizzle of rain, and I was happy to be inside. I really took my time building, making the barn feel as supported and secure as possible. At night, I herded 2 cows into their pen, and in the morning, I did the same with some sheep. I made space for large animals, but what about chickens? For them, I wanted a free-roaming experience, so I crafted some chicken coops to sit around the exterior of the barn. Now, there was one last thing I wanted to set up around here: bees. A few of the trees we'd grown had come with populated beehives, and honeycomb is a great crafting ingredient, so I figured, why not? I played around with different ways to construct the bees' nests, and when I finally settled on a design, I filled the area with amaranth I collected from that village. Over yonder, Bones was cultivating giant mushrooms around the nether portal. I thought they were lovely, and I was inspired to grow some around the village too. I mostly stuck to the brown flat mushrooms. They kinda reminded me of umbrellas, and I thought about standing beneath them on a rainy day. Once I was done, I decided to get back to building. Bones had completed my list of supplies for the blacksmith, so I grabbed the chest of materials and got to work. I was quite satisfied with how productive the past few days had been, and decided Bones and I deserved a little break. Of course, I suggested we visit the flowery village I discovered days before. We teleported through the Waystone, and I think I can firmly answer my question from before. Bones loved it here. Together, we frolicked through the nearby fields, catching butterflies and showing off to one another. When they expressed interest in visiting the strange cliffs, I brought out the airship and we flew over the ironwood forest. I began to retrace the steps of my previous journey, showing them the large alliums, jacaranda trees, and finally the cliffside village. We returned home, joyful with our pockets full of butterflies and flowers. On a whim, I decided to construct a butterfly enclosure. It was by far my most impulsive and strange build, but after such a lovely day, I wanted to capture everything great about it in a space I could revisit. With the remaining daylight of day 69, I returned to work on the village, finally attending to the small house near the town hall. By now, my worries surrounding the project were actually beginning to ease. I found myself caring less about the final result and more about finding joy in the process. That mindset carried me through days of building like a gentle autumn breeze. The house quickly found its personality with a bowing roof and mossy accents. I loved how different it was from those around it. It was the perfect bridge between the town hall and the farm. On the night of day 71, Bones and I debated where to put the next build. Following their suggestion, I started on the foundation of one of the last plans I drafted up. While I was initially hesitant, the placement grew on me. I decided this building would be a general store or bakery, and its proximity to the blacksmith would make this entire area a place of trade and commerce for the village. But I can't get ahead of myself yet. Despite my confidence, I was still fumbling through this build. I definitely got carried away in the design process, making it one of my most detailed plans. And so, on the morning of day 73, I asked Bones to help once more. With Bones' help, things were going much faster, and I was feeling inspired. I went off-plan and began to construct an enclosed backyard and garden, which also gave me the opportunity to try making a new style of wall, something that could be an architectural staple to this area of the village. Bones and I slowly wrapped up construction with a few details around the landscape. I hate to say vibes, as it's a vague thing, but the village vibes were really starting to come together. There was a sense of lived place, and more than ever, I was motivated to keep going. I had a few more drafted up plans, but from here on out, most of the work will probably be landscaping, which means, you guessed it, it's time for another flower run. I mended my tools by harvesting some skulk and prepared for another excursion with Bones. Once again, we traveled through the waystone to the flowery village. I scooped up a bunch of flora, and then we took off in a direction we'd yet to go. We landed to grab these firecracker bushes with matching leaves. Then I let Bones take the wheel for a bit, and they brought us to a sunflower field. We came across an orchard where I annoyed Bones with leaf bugs and eventually stumbled upon another village. We explored without fear, unaware of the way night could transform this beautiful landscape. As we tried to sail home, a storm came rushing in from the coast, making us fight against the rain and wind. It took us some time, but we eventually found our way to the cliffside village, drenched and exhausted. Day 78 was one of sleepiness and rain. I wandered around the village, unsure of what project to tackle next. I decided it was time to do the one area I was so afraid to touch, the lantern. It sat so peaceful in that empty glade, its blue flames a stark contrast against the autumn foliage. Mayor Gordon explained it vaguely to me as the flame of community spirit, the soul of the village. And I think I understood now what he meant. There was no graveyard in the ruins before. Just this. If my discernment was right and the soul lantern contained the literal souls of the pumpkin folk of the past, then I needed to build this as a place of memorial, one that contains space to grieve and celebrate the life it holds. I chose this sunken design, like everything around it was pooling towards the lantern. Unlike the palette of the rest of the village, I chose to match the deep slate. Oddly enough, I asked Bones to help during this part, but they stayed far away. I wondered if they were worried about messing it up like I was. Although I imagine being from the village, it holds even more weight in their life. I remembered what else Mayor Gordon said about it granting wishes. If that truly was the reason I was here, I couldn't help but be thankful. Maybe deep down inside it knew that this was a project I longed to try, and I just needed the right push. It took me another 2 days of building as I perfected the walls and the floral design. Like the flames of the lantern, I chose blue and white flowers. The final touch was dozens of candles from the ruins of the old village. Finally, as the sun rose on day 82, I looked at my work and felt proud. I could only hope that the pumpkin people would feel the same. Well, anyways, back to landscaping. Some stray remnants of the old path remained, alongside random patches of coarse dirt. Bones and I excavated it all and then slowly built it back up. I finally connected the roads down here too and started angling one towards the soul lantern. All this empty space needed some love, but with what exactly? I thought about it for a moment and then I continued to dig. I decided many days ago this area would be for trade and commerce, so we're going to bring that theme beyond buildings with an outdoor market. It'll be perfect for supporting local farmers, blooming businesses, or outside merchants looking to set up for a day. I sectioned out the area by building that stone brick wall from before and then promptly got distracted. I spotted Bones on their way home from gathering supplies, and so I went to say hi. Then I spent a few moments making some buns before finally locking back in. I decorated the area with all of the lovely flowers we got on our last trip, and then it was time to build the stalls. I played around with various spruce wood blocks till I found a design I liked. It's silly to think it takes an entire day to build 3 stalls, but what can you do? As a fan of farmers markets, I'm always really delighted when there's places to hang out and eat anything you buy. So I spent day 85 building little tables and benches, continuing the wall and then just decorating in general. I still want to leave space for the pumpkin people to help decorate when they return, but it's just so fun I can't help but do a little. After a large mushroom or two, some more paths, and lots of leaves, the marketplace was finally complete. And oh my gosh, it's just so cute. I think this might be one of my favorite spots in the village. Now that this area is so done up, it's incredibly obvious how others aren't. I built a library, but I didn't landscape around it, so let's do that. I continued the ruined cobblestone walls from the farm, drawing a border around everything and decorating with bushes and flowers. I mixed moss into the lawn to create a neat manicured pattern. Then I lined the surrounding paths with podzol before sprucing them all up. On day 89, the flower frenzy continued, and my new target was the patch near the town hall. I attempted a gradient of reds to yellows, but found it lacking. There was a very specific flower I wanted, so I grabbed the airship and went out for more. By night, my gradient was complete, and I finished it off with a single tree. Oh, that's right, the trees! I cut down a lot of trees from the old village while terraforming, so I think it's time to add them back. I grew my saplings immediately, trying again and again until I got the right size. For species, I focused on pointy larches and yellow aspens. Then I had the idea to create mailboxes. I placed them at each house, including the next construction site. But as I went to place the final one, I hesitated. It would be for Bones and their house, which I'd yet to build or plan, because for some reason the thought of doing so made me sad. It reminded me that in 10 days, Bones would finally be reunited with the pumpkin people, and I would leave. I pushed those feelings aside. After all, I made a promise to Mayor Gordon to build this place for its people. And so I met Bones at the old scarecrow stand and asked them a question I'd started to dread. So, I've been wanting to ask what kind of house you'd like, since, you're here, and I can make it for you, and... Wait, where are you going? Bones? Wait, is that you? Oh, are you saying you want to stay with me? Yes, of course I'd like that. I'd more than like that. All right, but first, we have a project to finish. I thought my heart might explode from the energy that buzzed within me. What once was dread was now filled with determination and hope. I was going to get this project done, and with Bones at my side. I grabbed the last chest, bringing it to the place I marked earlier. I knew now that this was the final home I needed to build. I put my all into construction over the next 2 days, following the complicated plans I created for myself. This design stood out amongst the others as something a bit more whimsical, and I felt like it deserved its place near the Soul Lantern. When the construction came to an end, I found myself wondering what to do next. The pumpkin people returned in a week, but for once, I didn't feel like I had much else to do. Part of the town still required meticulous landscaping, and our cart needed to be packed. But those were easy tasks, if not leisurely ones. As Bones and I settled into those remaining days, we did so with care, taking our time with each space we touched. We worked together, then apart, sweeping over the village to finish every last corner. A voice in the back of my mind still told me to work harder, to do better, to fix every flower and every imperfection, but it was also small. Nearly quiet in the presence of someone who couldn't even speak. When I started this project, I had a lot of uncertainties about time and quality. It's been kind of a rough run for me lately. I wanted above all to please the pumpkin people, myself, and even you, the viewer. But somewhere along the way, amidst getting lost, sailing the skies, and building so much building, it really occurred to me why I love doing this all in the first place. I get to do it with people I love, for people I admire, and as much as I'm allowed, I get to do it at my own pace. On the last day, I did one final look around as the sun eased into dusk. The village had never been quieter, as if it too was holding its breath in anticipation. Bones and I bid one another goodnight, agreeing to meet at the lantern the next morning. And just like that, the 100th day arrived. Bones and I met at the lantern and decided that I would retrieve the pumpkin folk. I traveled up the hill and greeted them for the first time in 100 days. As a group, we toured the village. Despite the unfinished areas, they loved every inch of it. And for the first time, I too loved it. Not as my work, but as someone's home. Bones strangely kept their distance, and when I finally mentioned the stray villager to Mayor Gordon, he was shocked.
We didn't leave anyone behind. Just you and the lantern,
he told me. Of course, when I asked Bones about it, they didn't have much to say. You might not expect it, but I'm not that surprised. It's not every day someone hands you their soul. Mayor Gordon theorized they were the result of a wish, granted to me by the lantern. It's funny since I don't remember wishing for anything. But I guess that's how it tends to go. Even our smallest desires can create the biggest change. I took this project on a niche whim, and from it came so much more. If I hadn't put my doubts aside and faced potential failure, I would have missed it all. Time moves on with or without us. Villages are built upon villages. Life decays and turns anew. If you find yourself standing by, drifting without sailing, know it's easier to leap in when someone else is in the water. While I don't know how long the magic in Bones might last, I know I will be there till the very end. Even if it's in an unexpected and strange way. Thank you for watching. As per usual, I'd like to thank all of my Patreon subscribers. A small heads up, it actually might be a few days before the map is on Patreon. I'm gonna be really candid with you guys. I've worked like 3 18-hour days in a row, and I just need to sleep. Even now, I'm kind of struggling to record an end ramble of all things, which supposedly should be the easiest thing to do. So I'm just gonna say, remember to take care of yourself, the people around you, and the spaces you occupy. Cheers!